Left off.
Hey, welcome in. It is time for Bollox Talks and Tangents. It's Thursday at 6:34, and that means Leonard and I get to drink a little bit and talk history. All right. We got a fun show. We're talking about something you and I both love to do.
Oh, very much.
So excited about this. I think we're going to get off on a tangent or two.
Yeah, I did small notes for that reason alone.
Yeah, I got a couple things here. I'm probably not going to talk about any of those, but that's what the topic is about. If you guys want to talk about it, bring us back in. Just reel us back in from our tangents. But we're talking about travel and the history of travel, how it all got started. All right. I think my boys love to travel. Blake, who's in the studio pushing all the buttons back there, he likes to travel.
I do.
And we've been able to do some adventures, and you are a guy that I look at as being very adventurous.
I am.
So,
I will travel the world.
Yes, very adventurous. But I started late on my travels. I didn't start my first airplane ride in a real airplane, like in a commercial airline. I believe I was 19 or 20 years old.
Okay.
So I think I started late in life. So
you're probably head and shoulders above a lot of people, but yeah, that's.
I think that's about where I was at in life. So I didn't feel like I got the travels. Blake, every spring we went somewhere and we drew it out of a hat. So he got to do some travels. But we're talking about the history of travel, and we're excited to talk about it. But we got to first talk about our sponsors.
I think the people that keep us on the air.
All right, and we're drinking today. What are we drinking here?
One of our sponsors.
What is? You need to read that.
That is a Para Sherry Cask Finished Bourbon. It's the 2023 edition of the distillery exclusive. And for those of you scoring at home, this bottle is autographed by both Daniel and Zach, the winemakers or the distillers.
Yeah. So
it's good stuff.
I didn't even realize it was until you poured it. I didn't realize it actually had a signature on there.
Yep,
so
two of them.
We have a collector.
Exactly, and it's going to be an empty bottle, unfortunately.
Oh yeah.
Well, that's one of those things. You're damned if you do, damned if you don't. Because if you keep it closed like that, you're not drinking the good whiskey.
Yeah.
So I'd rather keep the empty bottle and put some colored iced tea or something in there after the fact and seal it back up again.
I can tell you. I mean, this is a smooth bourbon.
It's delicious.
It's got that little sweet chase with it, and it's one of my favorite bourbons that they have over there. I'm going to put it in probably in line right behind the Saint.
Okay.
And this one's my number 2.
And it's got really nice, just the nose on it. When I went into it, you got a nice little caramel nose going on. It's got some really good flavor to it. It's balanced. It's high proof, but it's not hot. It's good drinking whiskey.
It's a really good whiskey. It's really good bourbon. St. Augustine Distillery, one of our great sponsors, along with Citygate Spirits, their sister company, has amazing flavors, great tours. If you haven't been to these 2 locations, you have family in town, take them over there and walk them through and let them experience both of these tasting tours because they have amazing flavors at both.
Right, and today is apparently either today or yesterday was National Eat a Peach Day, which I wonder if it has something to do with the Allman Brothers album, but maybe not. And I come back to, and we were talking about this Tuesday at Trivia, bragging on the peach liqueur, the peach whiskey they make at Citygate Spirits.
Yeah.
It's just outstanding.
It's so good. It's so good. And they have some great moonshines and some other stuff, some really
a lot of fun things.
A lot of interesting flavors. All right, interesting people. If you want to see interesting people and just people watch, I don't know of a better place to go than Meehan's Irish Pub.
Oh, good, because I thought you were going to say like a bus station.
No, Meehan's is better.
Absolutely, because you can eat and drink.
It has 3 bars in one, excellent food, excellent drinks, and wonderful people to be around to help you look at the weird people that are there with you.
Yep, that's why sitting on the front, and you're torn because sometimes if you sit on the upstairs porch, you got a great view of the bay. I've been up on that upstairs porch to see actually a rocket launch, and you can see a great rocket launch when you're on the upstairs porch. Nothing better. But on the downstairs porch, you can see everybody that's walking back and forth on the street. So if you want to talk people watching, the outside porch on the ground floor main stairs, beautiful.
Yeah. No. Well, the reason I like the upstairs porch better is the downstairs bathrooms. At our age, bathrooms are important.
Yeah.
The downstairs bathrooms are a little busier. Upstairs, never a line.
I know, and as a rule, regardless, and the downstairs are unisex, whereas upstairs you've got the women's room, which is actually haunted, and the men's room, which is is usually empty.
Yeah.
Yep.
No,
Yep.
it's even when I'm downstairs,
I go upstairs. Absolutely, absolutely, I agree.
That's the Meehan's hack.
Yeah, along with the chicken tenders.
All right. Abear Kresge and Associates, best CPAs in town. These guys have been with us since the very beginning, and I appreciate them. They always help me through all my business. They help me with my taxes. They help me pretty much in life. Abear Kresge and Associates, wonderful people. You've got a chance to actually meet Billy Abear now with trivia. Just so happy that they're a sponsor, and glad to be a friend with them for so long. All right, St. Augustine Pirate Museum. These guys are all about community. They are there. They are. They not only do the Pirate Museum, they have the Colonial Quarter. They have the Colonial Oak. The Oak. They have St. Augustine Seafood and Bull and Crown.
Bull and Crown. Yeah.
So, they just do an amazing job in St. Augustine. Downtown St. Augustine wouldn't be the same without this crew.
I think the Whalers, or the original Whalers, which has one surviving member of the original Bob Marley band, I think the lead guitarist is the link to this one, is playing Sunday night at the Oak.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So for those of you, if it's a nice night, you're going to get some traditional, real live, authentic reggae.
All right. I'm going to let you talk about this guy right here, Kaiser's Deli and Market.
My main man, Kurt. He is just the salt of the earth. He's right up there with Reggie. That's why they worked so well together when Kaiser was working at Meehan's. Deli's great. They're going out they're branching out into dips now.
Okay.
Onion dip. The fromage that we make in the restaurant, in the deli, all the odds and ends of the cheese get processed up with a little bit of white wine and some garlic. It's a great spread. It's a great dip. But on the roast beef sandwich or on the French dip, it's outstanding. The onion dip, it's like you want a ridgy potato chip to just dip into it. A couple other things, and now he's sort of branching out into bear territory with a little bit of crunchy jardiniere and spicy jardiniere onto the French dip. So he's moving and shaking. It just keeps getting better. There's nothing he's afraid to do there, and we say this with frequency. Best pastrami in St. Augustine, bar none. Bar none.
Try the Bollox over there. I'm telling you right now, it is my favorite sandwich in there. And ask for the turkey to be half turkey, half pastrami, and ask for it pressed.
Yep. Toast that up.
Oh, I'm telling you, it's a great sandwich.
Yeah, fresh baked bread comes in from a good bakery in Jacksonville every day. You're not going to go wrong. You're just not. And it's and he's a nice man.
Yeah, he's
a nice man.
Yeah, and I have a couple sandwiches with my names on them, and that one might be my favorite. I'm not going to lie. I don't want to talk about the other people too much.
Well, one's a burger and one's a burger. I
have two burgers and a sandwich.
Right.
And
it's good to be you.
Sandwich wins.
It's good to be you.
Yeah, but Jif Burger's good, and so is the burger at Gypsy. Have you tried the burger?
I have. Yeah. I have. That's got the high-end burger. Yep.
All right. Last but not least, Coquina Coast Realty. Give me a call. I do commercial. I have some office space available at the Treasury and at the Cigar Building, and I also have an apartment available, a one-bedroom apartment. It's $1,600. And then you pay $200 for power and water, but you don't have to pay any of the deposits on the power and water.
Okay,
it's already incorporated, and you get free Wi-Fi with that.
That sounds like a pretty good deal. Because my Wi-Fi is $85 a month right there.
Exactly. So it saves you money doing that. So you're all in at $1,800 a month, and it's downtown. If you work downtown, you can't get a better location.
Right.
So give me a call at 904-669-7901. 904-669-7901. And pass it along. Please hit that share button.
Right.
We appreciate you guys so much. But we're going to get right into our word origins. And you and I both have a word origin that's associated with the topic today.
I try to. Yep, sir.
All right. So what is your word origin, sir?
Well, it's a variation, but it's in the back of the bus.
The back of the bus.
Or get to the back of the bus, or on the bus.
Okay.
So they're all related after a fashion.
Okay.
If you're in the back of the bus, or being told to be in the back of the bus, then you have to accept an unfair treatment.
So it's Rosa Clark. Or
Rosa Parks, exactly.
Rosa Parks,
you know,
yeah.
December 1st, 1955, in Montgomery, Alabama, Miss Rosa Parks had a long day at work, was sitting in the front of the bus, theoretically the white section, and was told to go to the back of the bus, and she said, no, basically. And, I think somebody had done that before her, but she is the linchpin of and the icon of the civil rights movement breaking into civil disobedience, shall we say, in another fashion, because it wasn't the first, and it certainly hasn't been the last part of civil disobedience involved in race relations, but she was the iconic woman who said, I ain't getting up. But if you're on the bus, then you're going along with things. So you can be on the bus, which means you're agreeing with the program or the plan, And interesting, as I was looking this over, it turns out that in 2013, two gentlemen were taking the shuttle from the Albuquerque airport to, I don't know, it was a parking lot or wherever they were.
Left.
And yeah, well, exactly. And the driver made them move to the back of the bus because these two gentlemen were gay and they were holding hands on a bus. And he actually told them to go to the back of the bus in 2013.
Wow.
Did not go over well.
Yeah.
He was chided by a number of passengers.
Oh, I imagine.
So,
I imagine. No, I can't even imagine that. You want me to blow your mind?
please.
Rosa Parks' husband had a car.
Okay.
She purposely.
Well, that's what I said. I mean,
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
a lot more to that than face
But
value.
it was still the right thing to do.
No doubt about
I'm
it.
not taking anything
No
away
doubt
from
about
at
it.
all. But I mean, a lot of
Right.
people, when I tell people that, they're like, what?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I like the fact that Mike Ilyich,
Okay.
Little Caesars Pizza owner and owned the Detroit Tigers for quite some time and a big
Yeah.
Detroit resident, paid for her rent until the day she died.
Oh, wow. I didn't know
Absolutely.
that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
No, she's definitely a hero. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not taking anything away.
No.
I just like blowing people's mind as far as history goes and
Well,
stuff like that. So,
you know,
a lot of people never put that. Oh, really? Yeah.
Well,
Yeah. But she was. I mean, she knew it needed to be done, and
Yep.
and like you said, she wasn't the very first person to do it,
Right.
but she was a woman in the story, and she was more convincing, and she was more articulate.
and it's
than
still
the
a brave
prior.
thing to do.
Yes, 100%.
That's just
100%.
that's,
Like I said,
that's
I'm
risky
not-
regardless.
I'm not taking anything away.
Yeah,
from her at all.
absolutely,
All right.
absolutely.
So I didn't talk about bus travel here, but I mean that's a key part of travel.
Mm-hmm.
But what did you have? Did you even look at the word travel and where it came from?
No.
So-
No, I'm fascinated by a lot of this stuff. I actually did a bus tour at one point in time. We can come back to that.
Yeah.
But no, I didn't, because we need your word origin to open the doors for the rest of this
All right.
program.
All right. So the word travel, it comes from Middle English, Old English, and it's from the 14th century. It's the first time the word
1300s.
Yeah. So the 1300s.
I have to do that. When anybody says century, I have to,
You have to back
take
it up
one.
one.
Right,
You
exactly.
gotta back it
so,
up
so
one.
I know where we are.
But travel was well before the 1300s, 14th
Sure.
century. And
The Crusades.
It actually came from a word travelin, which meant to torment. It also meant to labor
There were no Howard Johnsons on the roadside.
and to strive. And finally, it gets to the word, the meaning it means now a journey.
Travail,
Yeah, travelin.
right?
It turned to travel.
Okay.
And it finally turned to the journey of that's where if you're going to travel,
I think
you're gonna
travail would be in there too.
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
So
All right. Yeah.
yeah, so that's
Well, it
where
wasn't easy back in the olden days.
Oh, we got
Not so easy
we're-
today either,
we're gonna
half the
get-
time.
We're gonna get through that. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not always easy.
Yeah.
Especially with the
The
whole
blue screen.
Microsoft.
Yeah.
So, where did you have travel beginning in your history?
Oh,
And just so everybody understands, we do completely different research. I got notes, he has notes, but we don't talk about the notes.
oh, you mean personally, or
No. As far as history.
Oh, I stayed a lot closer to home. I just started getting into things because I just got off an airplane 3 days ago, and
So you want me to start with the history?
yeah, go ahead, because
Okay,
I've got recent history with
Okay.
TSA and smoking stuff like that.
All right, so it started with the Romans. All right, and the Romans were very wealthy as a society, and it was more of a learning adventure. And you have to separate travel from explorers. But the original travelers had more of a learning mind that they wanted to do.
Okay.
And the Romans, they created the Appian Way.
Right, they built roads, but that was
Yeah.
that was to move the military. That was like the Eisenhower project.
But the wealthy used those exact same roads
Sure.
to get to their summer villas.
Yeah.
All right. And we talked about what a tourist was. You go on grand tours.
Right.
Which was associated more with the 17th century, which
Right.
is.
The 1600s.
Thank you. But the
More
Romans,
whiskey.
the Romans were basically the first true wealthy
Yeah.
society.
Yeah.
And,
Well, haves and have-nots, but yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was about learning adventures and things like that. Then it became pilgrimages. So
Correct.
the not so wealthy would go on pilgrimage.
Right. A lot of walking.
Yeah, a lot of walking. It was by foot, and this is in the Middle Ages. And I was given this
Oh, I remember.
as part of the Santiago,
The Camino.
the Camino.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize that a lot of inns and accommodations would have this on the wall saying we'd have room. Basically, this was the first vacancy, no
Right,
vacancy
okay.
sign. On the Camino, they use it to eat out of,
Right.
but this was a symbol for accommodations.
Interesting. Good to know. I'm going to look out for that now.
Yeah. So it's in Europe. It was in Belgium and the Netherlands is mostly where this would be found. Antwerp, and it was a lot of churches. So a lot of people believe the more churches they went to, the better chance they had of getting into heaven.
Okay.
So the not so wealthy or the poorer people would walk from church to church or different accommodations, or they stay on the side of the road. And so a lot of that went to the from the European style of travel, which was by foot.
After we did the show with Mike where he had that lovely woman come in who had just finished doing the Camino,
Yeah.
turns out a neighbor of mine is about to embark on that now.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's planning a big wander through Spain and Portugal.
Well, I mean, when I get the time, I can probably do about 2 weeks at a time or something like that with my current schedule. You and Blake can handle it.
Sure.
I'm gonna try and do some of those components of it. So, all right. So that was kind of the first go round of it with Middle Ages, and then we moved to the tour of tourists, where you went on tour. You went on grand tours, which happened in the which century?
17th,
Which is
the 1600s.
you're doing so good.
I'm telling you, I write this stuff down right on my hand.
All right, and this was more again the wealthy,
Sure.
aristocrats,
Yeah.
and it was also still reverting back to the Romans, a learning experience,
Right, an educational tour.
educational
Right,
tour.
right.
A lot of these, if you were in London and you're rich, you go to Paris.
Right.
If you're in Paris and you're rich, you go to Rome. If you're in Rome, you're rich, you went to London. And you usually went to those 3 destinations and you stopped along the way and you learned the different cultures and all of those things. And that would be going on a grand tour because you'd be gone for months on end.
Right. Yeah, it was not a short. First of all, even then you're doing it by horse and carriage, by coach. There's no rail transportation yet at that point in time, so you were either driven in a horse and carriage, or on horseback. But you get to the late 1800s, and the affluent Americans would send their children to Europe for the learning experience to do the same thing. They would put them on a boat, ship them over, and let them go to Europe for a summer to learn things and be educated.
Educated is correct. And other cultures and all of those situations. You mentioned rail. And the rail didn't really come into any prominence until about the 1840s.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until the late 1800s, during the 19th century. Okay, 19th century, 1800s. We started doing the cross across the entire country with that. And where's the Golden Spike?
Promontory, Utah.
There you go.
Promontory, Utah, baby.
Which president knocked it in? You want a hint?
It wasn't Hayes. Maybe it was Hayes? No.
His first name began with an H, but no one knew his first name.
Oh, Hiram.
Hiram Ulysses
S. Grant.
S. Grant. Simpson Grant.
Yep.
So that's when we really started going across the from sea to
Transcontinental,
sea. All right. So that's a little bit of my history. I think I've caught up to where you're at, or close to where you're at. The first airline was in the Netherlands.
Okay.
I'm sorry, it was in Germany. Not in
Okay.
the Netherlands, it was in Germany. And it was called the DLOG.
Which is so much better than the Gulag.
And it was an airship. It was not an airplane. It was an airship in November 16th, 1909. And let me tell you right now,
1909. Okay.
this is the only form of travel that I truly wish I would have been around to do. So if I have a time machine, I want to take a Zeppelin across the Atlantic.
Okay.
You know, not the Hindenburg in 36,
Right.
but, we got, some of the other stuff. But have you ever looked inside of these accommodations of a Zeppelin?
Yeah.
It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, they're pretty luxed out. Yeah.
It's pretty amazing. So, I mean, that one to me was the one. Do you know the very first commercial airline that took place in the United States?
I want to say Pan Am, which I believe is making a comeback, as a matter of fact.
Well, it was actually here in Florida.
Oh, national?
Yeah. Well, no, I didn't say national. I said the first commercial.
Okay.
All right. And it was called Airboat Line. And it was an airboat. It was an airboat airplane. It was a boat plane,
Okay. Oh, a seaplane.
a seaplane.
Gotcha.
In 1914.
Oof.
That flew from St. Pete to Tampa.
Okay.
Wasn't very far, but if you Google
You might have
first
been better
commercial,
off in a boat.
first, yeah, I'm pretty sure. Much safer. First commercial airline. It comes up as St. Pete to Tampa in 1914.
Wow. Interesting. Somebody did mention, I think Julie was telling me that Pan Am is about to resurrect themselves.
Okay.
So I find that interesting.
All right, and they were one of the first international
Right.
ones.
Yeah.
All right, so in the U.S., the Big Four. Do you know what the Big Four were of travel?
Well, you had American, TWA, Pan Am, and I'll go either national or Eastern.
Okay, they didn't count Pan Am because it was international.
Okay.
Okay, Eastern Airlines,
Yep.
American, TWA, and United.
Oh, I keep forgetting about United.
Two
So I fly
of
them.
the four are still around.
Yeah. Barely.
So those were considered the Big Four.
Right.
So, all right. So now I've kind of got to where you're at in your research, right?
Well, I looked at a couple of other things because having gotten off of planes, I think, people on airplanes are just lose all touch with reality. Plane lands, you're on the ground, you got 10 minutes before they even open the frickin' door.
Stand up immediately.
I know. But what amazes me is the people that stand up on the window seats are now hunched over like Quasimodo because you can't stand up straight on that side of the airplane. Otherwise, there's also people 3 rows in back of you who rush up to be in front of you to get their bag out where they put it before their seat, and then stand in the aisle, now blocking the aisle.
Yes.
It's just sit down, wait your freaking turn. It's not going to be that interminable. It'll be a couple minutes. Lighten up, Francis. Seriously.
Yeah, no, 100%. It's one of my pet peeves, and Blake's traveled with me enough to know how aggravated I get. And we don't check bags. We have a particular brand of backpack that we travel with. Rebecca wasn't a fan of it, and now she's a fan of it. She understands. We don't have to worry about check bags. We never lose our luggage. It's always with us. And we rarely travel more than 5 days at a time.
Right.
So,
see, that's the trick. Yeah.
So you can pretty much pack everything you went there, and my rule is if I forgot anything or I need anything more,
you can buy it.
I buy it when I
Right.
get there.
Right. Absolutely.
I know it sounds very elitist to make that.
No,
statement,
it's practical
but
because
it's practical.
it makes perfect sense. It really does. I'm fortunate that a couple of my credit cards are co-branded with airlines, and like I just flew to and from Vegas last weekend, and I checked the bag because it was free.
Yeah.
I wasn't paying $40, and it's one less thing to have to schlep, especially when you're making a connection. Because when you're making a connection, and half the time you got to go from one terminal in an airport to another terminal, and you've got to take a tram. Schlepping a bag's not a thing, and I haven't quite figured out how to pack what I need to take in a backpack. And we were talking about this before I left. Shoes are a pain in the ass.
Yeah, and see, I wear the shoes. I'm wearing dress shoes today.
Right.
They're very comfortable. I wear the shoes that are the biggest, bulkiest shoes
Right.
with me.
Right.
I usually wear jeans on the plane. I don't wear pajamas, which is the most ridiculous thing in the world. Yeah, for you.
You mean bringing your pillow with you on the plane too?
Come on.
Girls.
Well, and let me tell you, I traveled a lot young when I was playing ball and stuff like
Yeah.
that, and I played softball for some teams where they would just send me an airline ticket. And this is when you actually got a ticket in the mail, and you go to the place and then you get paid for the weekend and play ball. And it was a fun time in my life, all within the United States. But my trick was, I would travel with that, and on the ride back, if I was sleepy or if I had a red eye, I would buy a stuffed animal at the airport. I was either dating someone or taking care of kids or something like that. So the stuffed animal never went to waste.
Right.
But the stuffed animal was cheaper than the pillow
Oh, sure.
that you would have. And
Brilliant.
It was a double use, and it was usually more comfortable than the neck thing that they had.
Yeah. Those
So
I have one. I don't. Yeah.
That was kind of one of my travel hacks where it was like, all right, I'm covering my bases, and I get a good sleep.
And if you got a girlfriend, when you get home, you're getting some sugar.
Yeah, that was.
Look what I brought you.
Well, that was the plan. That was the plan, or a future girlfriend.
Right, exactly.
So, I mean, either one of those. I got you this in Toledo.
Where I went 2 for 3 and a stolen base.
Yeah.
Right.
Dude, we won the tournament. It was great. Where's your trophy? I gave it to a kid. So, because I never travel with it.
Right.
You don't want to carry a trophy with you.
No, it's a little,
It's pretentious.
unless it was the trivia trophy, then we'll take that with us.
Yeah,
that's high end.
That one doesn't travel
Yeah,
well.
I know.
It doesn't travel well.
No.
So,
And I ain't drinking out of that one.
Yeah.
I promise you.
you probably drank out of worse.
It's true.
But,
I wash these, trust me.
sure you did.
I do every couple of weeks.
So, but I mean, that kind of gave me my taste or my love for travel. My parents, a vacation for us was going to a family reunion. Like growing up, we drove to Tennessee, and we drove to Tennessee when someone died, or we drove to Tennessee when I don't even think we went there when people got married. My dad's the 10th child of 11.
Whew.
Out of Tennessee, and I have 39 first cousins.
Wow.
So always something going on in Tennessee. But that was our vacation. That was it.
They didn't have TVs, did they?
My grandfather didn't have power.
Okay.
All my cousins.
I know how they kept busy.
Yeah,
And warm.
Well, that's why there was 11 children.
That's my point.
Unfortunately, my dad's mom passed when he was 14, so I never got to meet. To meet my grandmother Winona. My sister's named after her, but I never got to meet her for obvious reasons. Timeline doesn't work out.
Right.
But I can tell you, when my uncle my uncle Argall passed away. I was in second grade, and I remember it happened in the wintertime. And it was the first time I'd been to my Papa Frank's house in the wintertime. And I remember laying on the second, it was 2 stories, so I thought, he's rich. He's got a 2-story house.
Right.
That was kind of, but we didn't have, we had a potbelly stove in the
Right.
middle of the house.
Sure.
We had he added this after he sold the portion to I-75 that split his farm. So that's the biggest check he ever got. So he added the pump. Before that, they'd have to walk like 500 yards down to the creek. And then they'd have to boil the water and they'd have to do all that. But so he had a pump inside the house, but there was no bathroom inside the house. We only had an outhouse. I remember having to go to the bathroom on the second floor, looking out. It was a wood frame house, but it didn't have insulation, didn't have drywall. I could see the snow outside, and I was like, "Whew, this is not good." So I knew I wasn't a wealthy kid because that was my entire travel world. But I was like, I'm better than Papa Frank.
Yeah. Right.
And Papa Frank probably had more in the bank than my parents ever did. Because he had a lot of land.
Right. Yeah.
But traveling just wasn't a part of my life as a young kid.
See, and my parents were school teachers, and they were fiscally conservative, absolutely. But, we would get in I remember driving to Florida once, and, with my mother, God bless that saint of the woman, we stopped at every state line and had a picture in front of welcome to Alabama, leaving Alabama. Welcome to Maryland, leaving Maryland. It didn't matter. Virginia is for lovers, and we were taking pictures in front of that sign.
Let me tell you this. You came from New York, right? If you drove through Alabama, your dad had a really shitty map.
Well, yeah. Good. Fair point. Fair point. But yeah, we drove straight down, and I don't know that 95 was the route we were on. It might have been the route we were on, and not the speed limit sign. But it was probably a lot more US 1 than 95 back then because I was 10.
Yeah.
So that was 1,000 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah, about that.
So, but then my
55.
Yeah, my mother's sister married an orchestra leader, and
You can say your aunt.
yeah,
You say aunt or aunt?
aunt.
Okay.
Yeah, not aunt.
Okay.
No, I'm not that cultured.
Who says aunt?
People with culture.
What kind of culture says aunt?
Black culture.
Aunt?
Aunt, absolutely.
They say auntie.
Oh well, that's a lot of cultures, dude. That's Indian they'll say the sub-Asian Indians, like half of Miss Harris. It's all aunties.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Whoever, if you're an older woman, you're an auntie.
Auntie.
Doesn't matter how old you are. You're an auntie.
Auntie Kayla.
Yeah.
Auntie. They're an auntie.
Yeah.
They're an auntie and mama.
Yeah.
Mama is an uncle.
Yep.
So.
But
A respected uncle, like high school.
my Aunt Shirley.
Aunt Shirley.
Married a man by the name of Russ Morgan, who was an orchestra leader, and he was very prominent. He made a couple of movies. He did a bunch of stuff. Knew Jack Dempsey. He was quite the raconteur. He really was.
Okay.
He was a
Cool dude.
Very, very.
Yeah, your new uncle.
Yeah, and he was my old uncle too. But they lived in Beverly Hills until the Dunes Hotel was being built, and they built the supper club, the top of the strip at the Dunes Hotel for my uncle in Vegas, right, for the Russ Morgan Orchestra. So he became the house band there at the Gourmet Room at the top of the strip, which is the name of the room. The top of the strip was the dance room.
Hoity-toity.
Hell yeah. So, he lived in Beverly Hills, 710 Palm Drive. Every now and again we're in California, and Julie and I when we're in California.
Did you drive across the country or did you fly?
We flew. I drove across the country a couple of times. Once with my father.
Okay.
And then once years later, I brought one of my sister's best friends to California to get married after I graduated high school.
Okay.
We drove across country, and I took Fran to marry Rip out in L.A.
Fran and Rip?
Yeah.
Okay.
Fran Abigail and Rip Crystal. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
She became Fran Crystal,
Correct.
not Francisco.
No. Fran Crystal.
Okay.
Correct.
Got it.
Lovely woman, one of my sister's dearest friends, still to this day. But we would fly out there. And then we would fly to Vegas. So I'm a obnoxious little 10-year-old flying. And I remember, at one point in time, I guess two of us got bumped to first class, and it was me and my father, and my mother didn't care, so she stayed in the back. And they're slicing freaking roast beef on the plane.
Oh, my gosh.
Oh, yeah. And I remember planes where there were bars. You could stand at a bar.
Yeah.
And this is the thing I looked up. You could smoke on airplanes.
Well, my plane had, and Blake, I don't know if you remember this, my plane was a Warrior, and it had ashtrays in 4 different locations.
Yeah.
4 ashtrays, no cup holders. 4 ashtrays, and it had a window in it this big.
Right. Well, that's in the armrest on old airplanes, there was that little flip ashtray. Yeah, no doubt about it. And I remember, and it was funny too, because I went to Australia after I graduated college, and people said, "What are you going to do?" I said, "I'm going to go to Australia." I didn't know what the hell I wanted to be when I grew up. This was before I went to restaurant school. And it would talk about a combined trip. I got a bus pass for a Greyhound bus in Australia.
Okay.
Flew into Sydney, stayed in Sydney for a couple 4 days, got on the bus, and then did the entire southern crescent of Australia, Sydney to Canberra.
After college?
After college, 1980.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So it was Sydney to Canberra to Melbourne. Spent a long Easter weekend in Melbourne where nothing was open.
Okay.
Oh my goodness! I drank a lot and went to an Australian rules football game at the Melbourne Cricket Grounds.
Yeah.
Big
Well,
stadium.
The good part about Australia in that time was they were very sexually promiscuous.
It was a fun trip.
Okay. No,
Fun trip.
I just wanted to let people understand the time frame you went.
It took a while to figure out that hotels meant bars, because hotels in Australia are bars.
Yes.
So I learned that pretty quickly.
Taverns with accommodations.
Yep, I drank a lot of freaking beer.
And they like the vices
Yep.
of what we call in the U.S.
Oh yeah, and then on to Canberra, the capital. It was Sydney, Canberra, Melbourne, Adelaide. One of the most progressive parts of the world was Adelaide in New South Wales, or in South Australia. Was one of the first places where women could vote, and they had suffrage. It was a great place there. And then off to Perth in Western Australia, and that was a realization, because when you're in Sydney, you realize that you're still on the Pacific Ocean.
Okay.
You're just looking east to America as opposed to west to any place else.
Okay.
So the sun's rising. You get to Perth, and you're at the freaking Indian Ocean. And that was a holy cow, where the hell on the planet am I? Not only you're on the southern hemisphere, so you go and you're looking at the Southern Cross instead of the Big Dipper, and you're in the Indian Ocean, on the eastern shore of the Indian Ocean, looking west.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you're there and it's tropical, and you got parrots flying over your head. And that was really it was like, where am I? We're not in Kansas anymore at all. But that was a great trip.
Would you consider that of your travels? Would you consider that your best trip?
No, I would consider that a great one, but not my best one.
Okay.
And then I flew home because one of my dearest friends were getting married, and I got the invitation while I was on this trip, because I spent a lot of time there. This is a long trip, and I found out that there was so I had to fly from Perth to Sydney to fly home on one of the longest flights I ever took, nonstop, because I flew from Honolulu to Sydney, but I flew from Sydney to L.A.
Okay.
Ooh, it's a long flight.
Yeah.
Drank every can of beer on the plane, saw 3 movies, and had 2 movies and had 3 meals.
I can tell you this. I flew from Detroit. I flew from here to Detroit to Tokyo.
Oof.
And I watched 2 full movies. A guy had a heart attack. They had to make a decision which way they were going to go with the heart attack. And thank goodness they kept going. Guy ended up living.
Okay.
All good. But I watched 2 full movies, and I still had 4 hours left to go.
Oof.
And
Yeah.
I was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
But I lost all of the 4th of July, I think, in 2005. Like, I lost a day.
Yeah.
I lost an entire
Yeah.
day traveling.
So I'm on this flight from Perth to Sydney, and there's a place in Perth called Miss Maud's. It's a guest house.
Okay.
And she does a big telethon every year. She did back then. Big celebrity fundraising telethon. And the telethon's over, and I'm on the flight back. And I'm at row, let's say 20, and row 19 was the smoking section in front of me. You know what the difference between the smoking section and the non-smoking section was?
Curtain.
I should have been so lucky. There was a bolster on top of the seat in front of me. That was it.
That's all it was.
Yep. And you know, and I'm looking and I'm going, huh, who's this guy? And there was a little wee Australian man on the row in front of me, and that was Paul Hogan,
Okay.
Crocodile Dundee himself.
That's not a knife.
No, this is a knife.
This is a knife.
Not a very large man, which was fine with me because neither am I. But yeah, he was an iron worker on the Sydney Harbor Bridge before he became a comedian.
All right, so Bobby gave us a little history as we were getting in, and I wanted to ask about this. So I-95 started in 1956.
Oh, maybe we did take it.
It was not completed until 2018.
They're claiming it's done?
Yeah.
I've been on 95. They're
Yeah,
still working on that.
I'm with you on that.
They're still working
thanks,
on it.
Bobby, for that. That's a great fact. So,
Thank you, sir.
So,
So smoking on planes.
yes.
Okay. So on domestic airlines, under 2 hours, they banned smoking in 1988.
Okay.
In February of 1990, if the flight was more than 6 or less than 6 hours, you couldn't smoke on the plane.
All right.
I figured that was they probably timed out a nicotine fit.
Okay.
Okay. They did away with completely smoking on planes in 2000 in the United States.
All right. So it wasn't until 2000.
2000.
I can
24
tell you-
years ago.
I can tell you
Yeah.
one of the best things that happened to me in my trivia world is because I've never smoked. I've never been a person who smoked cigarettes. I may have partaked in some greenage,
Okay.
but I didn't do that for 25 years when I was with the county. It's
Right.
after
Right.
that portion of my life. But I've never smoked. But I was doing trivia shows 3 and 4 times a week when smoking
In
was
bars.
allowed
Yeah.
in bars. And I would go home and I'd have to change in the garage
Sure.
because it was so awful. I'd have to
Absolutely.
take a shower, and those
Yeah.
clothes basically you either burn them or wash them right
Yeah.
away. And I think that is probably one of the most beautiful things that's happened in our country.
I could not agree more.
And I sympathize with those people that started smoking. But if you're young and you smoke now because you know all the other stuff and what it does to you,
Mm-hmm.
I don't have sympathy for you. But I sympathize because it was kind of a cool thing to do as we were growing up, more so you than me, because we're about 8 to 10 years apart.
Right.
So like your generation was more of the Marlboro Man, and really pushed it. You were fortunate you went to an Ivy League school, probably was a little more advanced than that.
Well, I didn't smoke because my father was a very big smoker. And, love my father to death. He had lung cancer, had a lobectomy, survived lung cancer again. Didn't kill him, but, but he wasn't a smoker when he started. He got drafted and said, okay, fine, I got a brain, went to OCS, went to Officer Candidate School, and became an officer. And when he got in the Army, they threw him a pack of cigarettes, and that's when he started smoking. They gave him cigarettes in the Army.
Yeah.
And that's what made him a smoker.
Yeah.
And he was a smoker for the majority of his life until he said, okay, I have lung cancer, I'm going to stop smoking. And good for him, he did.
Yeah, my dad started smoking probably 12 or 13 years old.
Wow.
But talking about those trips to Tennessee, me and my sister would sit in the back. We're about 2
In the
years,
car.
about 2 years apart,
Yep.
and my dad would crack the window about an inch.
Yeah.
And be like, I cracked the window, you're fine. Yeah, and we're dying in the back.
And right, he cracks the window so that the airflow brings the smoke to you.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
my grandparents, my nana and my papa, who Blake and I are named after, Sam Pizer.
Mm-hmm.
My guy, he's my guy, my lean on guy. They smoked tobacco and rolled their own cigarettes.
Nice.
So at age 4 or 5, I learned how to roll cigarettes with a little machine,
Aw.
cut off the ends. I have a skill set that a lot of people don't have.
One hand?
Not with one hand. No, I had a machine. It was
Okay.
a little roller machine.
Sure.
We put it in, put the paper in, roller, clip off either sides, good to go.
Yep.
I mean,
Looked like a Chesterfield.
oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
But it was called kite tobacco. So kite tobacco, it was the cheaper kind.
But it was a little sticky, a little tacky, so it rolled well.
Oh, it was a lot of twigs.
Okay, well, so you got the cheap stuff.
Yeah,
right.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
right. The Mexican,
Yeah,
not the
yeah,
Colombian.
Like
Gotcha.
the aisle that had like the white thing. where it
Yeah,
said
right.
Potato chips.
The black and white, right? Exactly.
yeah.
The generic aisle.
So and people like you and I are of the age where potato chips came in a can.
Yeah. Charles Chips.
Yeah.
Sure.
So, people, Blake, you ever had potato chips out of a can?
I know technically Pringles don't count.
Pringles do not count.
Right.
I'm
So,
sorry.
There
Then
was a lot of technology that went into the Pringle.
I think those are called stack chips.
Yeah.
There's a nomenclature for that. I think it's stacked
Well,
chips.
they had to take, because they're potato parts, they had to take the potato chip off of it because the other potato chip companies sued Pringles. So, but Pringles made the most sense because they didn't crack.
Right.
So, but
And-
Charles chips came in a can and a tin, and that
They were
tin,
delivered to the house if you played your cards right.
and that tin got reused and repurposed so many different ways.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure there's people out there. I know Bobby and Barbara Jean are out there watching. Tell us your Charles chips experience there. I remember the first time I tried Pringles, talking to Pringles, it was actually in Tennessee in the 70s, and I don't know if they had gotten to Florida yet.
No,
Do you remember when Pringles came out?
I do not, because I was never a big Pringles guy.
Okay.
I'm a big potato chip fan. I really am. Utz is my brand because the sodium content on the Utz is the lowest of any national brand of potato chips. Believe it or not.
Utz?
Utz, UTZ, yeah, 4% sodium.
Okay.
As opposed to 7 or
Keely
9.
says she has old Charlie Chips cans from her grandparents.
Oh yeah,
So
they're sort of brown with like spots on them, like they almost look like a potato.
black
Yeah.
and
Yep.
white writing on
Yep.
it. But the base is brown.
And if you think of it, when you try to get a potato chip out of a potato chip bag, the top half of the bag you have real live potato chips. The bottom half of the bag you have half chips and crumbs.
Mm-hmm.
So in a Charles Chips container, the potato chips are protected better. I'm always fascinated by the science and technology about packaging potato chips. I had a dear friend of mine, Brian McGovern, who was a bartender in our local bar.
Not related to George.
No, no, he was not. Well, maybe, but I don't think so.
Okay.
So if you wanted to, if you're in Nolan's and you're drinking, and there's that clip rack with the various bags of chips on them.
Yes.
Brian would do the right thing, and he would find the one that had the most air left in the bag, which means it was either the freshest or the chips had the best potential to be in one piece.
Gotcha.
Because if there was very little air in the bag, forget it.
It got
Yeah.
knocked around too
Not
much.
good, right.
Yeah. Got knocked around too much. All right. Going back to travel. All right.
Sure.
I have 2 questions, and it's for you and Blake and myself. I know most of Blake's answers on this, but your favorite trip of all time.
Okay.
All right. And then secondly, give me 3 bucket list locations you want to travel to.
Beautiful. I got
And
them
that
all.
goes out to all the people that are out there watching. So your favorite trip, where was that location? All right. And then 3 locations that are on your bucket list.
Well, my favorite trip, there's 2 of them. One that we did recently, which was Croatia.
Oh.
And Julie put together a brilliant trip. We did it, and we hired a company that were drivers and guides.
Okay.
And it was a multi-city tour, so it was different people everywhere. Picked us up at the airport, brought us to a hotel. They booked all the hotels. This was one of the most luxurious, top-shelf trips without being ostentatiously obnoxious as we could have ever done. It was affordable. It was great. We had friends in Zagreb, women that we had worked with when we were up in Maine at Beal's Lobster Peel. If you need lobsters, they're on Goldbelly, Beal's Lobster Peel. Try it. You'll be fine. But it was just a brilliant trip. We did Zagreb, Plikvik Lakes, Split, Dubrovnik. It's a magnificent country. The food is fabulous. The people all speak English because they learn it in school there. They take the euro. The countryside is beautiful. The beaches are gorgeous, and it was just a great trip. We had drivers that were / tour guides. We had cities that we went into over tours. Splits, you're like between Split and Dubrovnik. You think you're in the Game of frickin' Thrones.
Yeah,
Amazing. Awesome. So that trip was just wonderful. But then one of my favorite things is when I was an indulged child after summer sleepaway camps, 15, 16, and I do a cross country tour. And it was a bus tour, and there was a choice of 2. There was a place called American Trails and Trails West.
Okay.
American Trails were the ritzy kids that she sort of wanted to beat up because they were just freaking obnoxious.
Yeah.
And they stayed in motels and in cities, and they didn't do anything. And then Trails West, You went to national parks. You set up a tent and camped every night. You had your barbecuing your dinner, grilling your dinner, and we went to national parks across the country, and it was brilliant.
That sounds amazing.
It was Troy.
That to me sounds absolutely amazing.
I mean, the places I saw between Great Sand Dunes National Park in Colorado, Lake Solitude in the Grand Tetons. It was just Arches National Park, Zion, Bryce, everywhere. It was the Badlands. And there was bad weather in the Badlands.
Well, I wonder why it's called that.
So we didn't pitch tents, so we're sleeping in our cots outside. And you know, it's one of these things where you see in these Western movies where you're just looking and you see the thunder and the lightning 50 miles away, but it's like right next to you.
Yeah.
You're hanging your boots upside down on the bedpost so scorpions don't get in it.
Yeah.
It was one of the most rewarding.
Scorpions can climb in your boots, right?
But then I shake them out anyway.
That's the most ridiculous.
Oh, I remember being in Curacao and swatting a scorpion.
I've heard that story. I was like, scorpions just climb right
Oh,
up.
yeah. I was in Curacao as a kid and watching scorpions climb up the wall. That was a little disquieting.
Yeah.
But this teen tour where we were camping out and
sounds amazing.
it was wonderful. It was really, really wonderful. Every national park and national Cedar Breaks. I mean, it was just there was nothing great.
All right, Blake, I want to get to you because we only got like 10 minutes left. What favorite trip for you?
It has to be the Africa trip. Like I personally like just like over 2 weeks of just like African safaris, like historic natural landmarks, and plus amazing food as well, and just being part of a world that you haven't been to, or know that you only seen in documentaries, movies, and just actually now being out there was just incredible.
I can tell you this: one of the coolest things that in Blake, that I saw, because we were, very fortunate. We were able to take the whole family to Africa for 13 days.
Wow!
But we kind of progressed. We started very, very primitive, and then we worked our way to pretty posh. All right, we stayed in the same our posh resort. We stayed in the same suite that Richard Burton and Liz Taylor stayed in on the Zambezi River. So we had our own private
so it's cushy,
pool.
right?
It was very posh. But my favorite part of it is we stayed in an area that we had to stay in tents, and we did have hot water, there, and we were able to take showers. But we stayed in tents, and they'd have to walk us to the tents. We would wake up, and there would be one zebra that was infatuated with Blake.
Oh,
Blake, it was so crazy and wild that he was connected to this one zebra. And the 3 days we were there, that zebra would show up, and Blake would just sit there and kind of communicate with without talking, communicate with the zebra. And this zebra would keep his eyes on. We're talking, what would you say, 20, 30 yards away?
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah. And it was such a wild experience. Even when we were in the posh hotel, we would walk out the door and there'd be a warthog right there.
Yeah.
So and I agree with Blake. It's probably one of the greatest experiences we've had.
And it's so foreign from anything that we're used to.
Yeah, the only problem is the build up to get there, the inoculations you have to take, and the shots you have to take. The shots were more than the cost of the airlines. We got to see Victoria Falls.
Oh wow!
Which was phenomenal.
Wow.
So that's probably the trip that kind of sticks with me the longest. And I don't really I take 5, Rebecca and Maeve and I are going to Barcelona in December. So I take
all right,
5.
Blake, you're in charge, man.
Yeah, he hates it so much that he has a house to himself.
He does fine.
But we're very fortunate. We live in a time where we get to do this.
But
going through this history, it's like,
oh yeah,
a big trip would be 100 miles away from home.
Yeah, and 7 days.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the fact that you did that safari thing, which is, and to use the literal definition of the words, so foreign to what you're used to.
Yeah.
Because it's just so different than our reality here.
Well,
know.
in the 13 days, we were able to get what's called the Big Five. And some people will go on multiple safaris. And we probably, we would do a morning and afternoon whenever we were out in there. And, I think we ended up doing 12 to 14 total safaris. Because there was travel days and some other stuff in there where we didn't do safaris. But we did the Big Five.
Elephant, lion, hippopotamus.
Rhino.
Rhinoceros, okay.
Rhinoceros is on there, and water buffalo. But I don't know if hippopotamus is one of them.
Why not?
I don't know.
They wallow in the mud.
Blake, can you Google?
And I didn't think rhinoceros,
the Big Five.
Okay.
I think
A hippopotamus is just a rhino without a horn.
It's elephant, lion.
Rhino makes sense.
What?
All right, so it's the lion,
Yep.
leopard,
Leopard.
rhino, elephant. Guess on the last one?
The water buffalo.
Buffalo.
Yeah, water buffalo.
Okay.
So the hippo wasn't one.
So-
there were hippos. If you got in the right spot, you could walk across them.
Right.
Even though they're the most
Be careful, they're dangerous,
even though
baby.
they're the
Yeah,
most
yeah.
dangerous
Ooh,
ones.
there-
And
So-
that's where I learned, and I was in my late 40s, early 50s when I learned that hippopotamus can't swim.
No, they just wallow.
They bounce off the bottom.
Yeah. Do you know? And now I wonder why. Is there fresh mozzarella in Africa with water buffaloes?
I do not know.
I mean, it's buffalo milk is, fresh mozzarella is come from buffalo milk, and why not water buffaloes?
I'm assuming there are. And
I think we should no cottage industry.
We ate really well, and I can tell you, Kentucky Fried Chicken over there is the #1 chain over there,
Really?
and their chicken is better there than it is here.
But actually,
Would you agree, Blake?
I would definitely agree to that. But we actually had to explain to our our tour guide what Kentucky Fried Chicken was. Because he only knew
It
it
says
as
KFC.
All right.
It's just KFC, and
right.
we explained to him, and all their names are beautiful. They're like happiness or beauty or
Right.
pleasant, or their names are like
it's delightful.
Their American names are like that. But the day the day I enjoyed the most, and I think the most learning day for our boys, we went into a village with 0 accommodations, and the villagers sat down with us and explained to us everything that was going on and how far they had to go to get water. They showed us where they needed to go, and we're talking like a half mile to a mile away to get water every day to bring back for their cooking. The village they lived in, they had a little house that everybody that's the cooking house there,
Right.
And this is the dwelling, and keeping the animals out of that village was a part of their normal day, which is something we don't have to live with in any way, shape, or form.
Correct.
So, all right.
We're splitting those. Bucket list?
Last question. Okay, you have some
Bucket list? I'm ready to go.
bucket list. 3 on your bucket list. We have 2 minutes left for 3 of us to get through it.
Orient Express,
Okay.
a barge or a river cruise in France, and I would have said Hong Kong 10 years ago before the Chinese took over and it was still a British colony.
I was there when the Chinese took over. It's still beautiful.
Okay.
Food is amazing. Best place I've ever had for food is in Hong Kong.
Well, that's my desire would be to go to one of those giant dim sum restaurants that seat 1,000 people. And there was one called Jumbo that was it was a boat that was moored, and then whatever reason, whether it was COVID, I think, put it out of business, and they were towing it someplace else, and the freaking thing sunk in the middle of Kowloon Harbor.
Yeah.
So this giant dim sum restaurant sunk in the middle of the harbor.
It was in Aberdeen. I ate in that dim sum restaurant, which was phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. Some of the things that people with the culture and the way it is they do it by ranking of how you have to eat. You have to eat in order.
Yeah.
Worst thing I ever ate in my entire life was in Hong Kong, and it was jellyfish.
Okay.
Okay, so imagine
How's your memory?
imagine stripping out like gristle off the end of a chicken bone.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah.
And
Cartilage, yeah.
And then eating that, and then it feels like it multiplies like tribbles in your mouth. Okay, so that's what jellyfish feels like. But in the culture, who's ever the highest ranking person, all the food hits the center of the table.
Right.
All right. Whoever the highest ranking person is has to eat first, second highest, and then the highest. It kind of works its way. Whoever the host is
I was going to say hospitality for guests.
Yeah, the guest goes first.
That's what I was going to say. Okay,
the
yeah.
highest ranking person at the table eats after that. So Blake's mom was the highest ranking person because she was the company we were representing.
Okay.
And then I was second, and at one point she looked at me with jellyfish multiplying in her mouth and went, and she was a very brave eater, looked at me and went, I think I'm going to die. And I was there with her. I was like, we just got to get through it. We got to get through it. And that was my Hong Kong experience. But
Yeah, I want to go to Hong Kong just to eat dim sum.
strongly suggest Hong Kong and the dumplings and the dim sum. It's just amazing.
Yeah.
The steamed dumplings there, amazing. All right, so that's your three. Blake, what do you got?
Top three. I'm gonna say Amtrak. At least bear minimum a 2-night overstay in one of their trains.
Yeah, I want to stay. I want to stay in one of their cabins.
Yeah.
In an Amtrak.
Yeah.
I want to do either a cross country or from here to New York or something on an Amtrak in one of their cabins.
The Silver Streak. Yeah, Julie and I are talking about doing the Canadian Rockies, the Trans Canada thing.
Yeah.
Through from I don't know where you get on it, but you end up in BC.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's on my list too. What else you got?
Also say London.
Okay.
Been also possibly visit Scotland as well.
Okay. Yeah, you can probably knock both those out in the same trip.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And
By train.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
By train.
As well.
All right, and I've enjoyed like our baseball trips, the train rides.
Yeah.
Probably more than anything else, as far as a part of the travel side of it.
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot to be said. I admire the fact that you guys do this every year. That you do a couple of different ballparks and different ballparks all the time. I like knocking off ballparks. It's an easily attainable goal. There's what are there now? 30 of them. Not 32, 30 of them, right?
30, but there's always like the special ones that always pop up because
next year,
Well, it's Cincinnati for you boys, yeah.
we might.
Well, next
Darlington Raceway, or where is that?
Yeah, we're going to Bristol.
Yeah.
We're going to Bristol Raceway is what we think.
Because that's
we're
in
doing.
Tennessee.
Yeah.
That's kind of home for you.
No, it's northern Tennessee. So one of my very best friends, the ninth best shortstop in Stetson University history.
The ninth best shortstop in Stetson.
He lives there.
Okay.
One of my high school buddies.
Can he still turn two?
No.
All right.
No,
All right. Just checking.
He can eat double Whopper though.
Okay.
But sorry, Eddie, if you're watching. But I mean, so we're gonna probably go to.
That's
Bristol,
gonna be so much fun.
One of our favorite trips, just him and I, we went to Bristol Motor Speedway.
Okay.
And we stayed in an
More
RV.
vroom vroom.
We stayed in an RV.
It was very vroom vroom.
It was
Big vroom vroom.
Oh, it was so loud.
Yeah.
So loud, but we're talking about doing a baseball trip there.
I got plenty of earplugs for your next trip, boys. I got earplugs a popping from a couple of safety conventions.
Well, Florida Man Games has a car in the race tomorrow in Daytona.
No shit.
So we're gonna Blake and I and Rebecca and Maeve are gonna make our way down to Daytona tomorrow along with Pete and Ricky.
Pete,
Florida.
more props to you, brother. You are just Van Strange in the world. Keep going.
So tomorrow night, watch the NASCAR race. Number 45, Florida Man Games is on the side of the car. Excited
The
about
man is a force.
excited about that. And Pete,
What's the race?
it's the Xfinity Daytona race. It's the 250.
Okay.
So it's the race right below like the big Cup race, which is on Saturday night.
Cool.
But my three goes
Who's
to
the time out? Who's the driver?
Blake. Who's the driver? What's his name?
I believe
Into
it's.
the mic.
I'm trying to talk into the mic right now.
Probably Van Strange.
Caesar Barrichello.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I'm sorry. So your bucket list.
All right. My bucket list, because we're over on time, is I want to do Australia.
Been there. Yep. Sure.
All right. And it sounds crazy, but I want to do Russia. I want to do St. Petersburg.
Yeah.
And
the Hermitage.
And I want to do Bora Bora over the little cabins over the water. So those are my three.
Yeah.
Rebecca, write them down. I know you just did.
Honey, get the brochures.
I can tell you right now, I've had so much, a little travel hack for those people that love to travel. Rebecca and I have been using Gate One Travel.
Yep.
And,
I check it every week.
And they have some amazing trips on there. Just as long as you can be open to their schedule,
Right.
And
get to New York, Miami, or
you got to get to New York, Miami, LA, or Boston. All right, I want to say thank you to all our sponsors. I know we only got one read in today, but we really appreciate you guys. If you would, please hit that share button. So much fun. I'm enjoying the comments. Keely sent me a picture of her Charlie Chips thing. Amazing. But you guys, appreciate you. We'll be back next week with Bollox Talks and Tangents. Bye-bye.